So often we hear, follow your dreams. It was fed to us as kids. You hear it in every single award show speech, in motivational books, from your coaches, counselors, teachers, and parents. There was a time where we thought we could do anything. The world was our oyster and it was ours for the taking. We were superstars.
As kids, we were encouraged to do the things we loved and what we gravitated towards. Our heads were filled with the idea that we could do these things forever, and we would become whatever we wanted.
Then reality hits. And this looks different for everyone. It started seeping in slowly for me about halfway through high school, because that's the first time we shipped away from our authentic selves, right? The concept of getting into a good college was introduced. We were slowly taught to curate an appearance of ourselves to impress the admissions team, even if that meant we did things that didn't make us happy. They started us in the system, maybe without even knowing it.
And then at some point, the second reality hits, and that's the reality of adulthood. People start asking, what's an average salary for that job? What does that career trajectory look like? Will you have enough money for your retirement? The fear narrative begins to set in, and the goal shifts from following your dreams to money in a bank. Your eyes have even further drifted from the prize.
For me, this is where I first deviated from, let's call it my passion path, and chose to go into a more stable career field. I'll tell you guys the full story about this another time, but TLDR, I found myself in my late 20s unhappy and ultimately unfulfilled. And at 33 years old, I decided to take the leap, and here's where your other host, Mark, comes in.
Thanks, Kristen. I too lived a life very much dictated by the system. I was a kid beaming with excitement, purpose, and a desire to entertain and make the people around me smile and have a good time. But I also got indoctrinated. I went to a good college, a good grad school, did all the right internships, got into a career path with a clear trajectory to the top. Yet it wasn't enough. So at the same age of 33, crazy, right? I also took that leap into my passion and spent the next 30 years learning what it felt like to finally live my dreams, feel the freedom of mind and spirit that came with it, and the abundance that came with living in alignment with my dreams. The big thing that I realized, though, was that it wasn't easy. I found myself slipping back and forth between following my passion and responsibility. I found that more often than not, these two didn't align with our current business and financial systems. But I wholeheartedly believe, and I still do, that they should.
So, as you can see, the synchronicities between Mark's and my life are pretty wild, right? We lived parallel experiences. Both of us took that leap at 33 years old, just 30 years apart. We still can't get over this. But the real kicker is that it was 30 years to the day, August 31st. Yep, it's nuts. I don't know if you guys have seen the show Hacks on HBO, but we always joke about how Mark is like Deborah and I'm like Ava. We're this tag team at two different parts of our lives, but our mission is in complete alignment, and we want to help the rest of the world follow their dreams as well. Their seemingly impossible moonshot dreams. He's going to show us how it's not as impossible as you think.
Now, your story might be different. Maybe you're working at a job you tolerate or even hate, and you have a passion you buried away long ago. Maybe you're trying to figure out what your passion even is. Or maybe you're someone who took that leap of faith and started your own side hustle or business venture, but you keep hitting walls, likely money walls, that prevent you from taking your dreams to the next level.
We've coined all of these phases and everything in between the dream spectrum. And no matter where you are on the spectrum, we want to help you get to the next phase. We want to help you take your barriers, fears, and complacency and turn them into freedom, abundance, and passion. We want to show you why you might be feeling some degree of stuck and then how to break free and finally have your passion and money. We're telling you you can have more. We'll get into all of this and more throughout our first season on MoonShooting. So before we do all that, we gotta at least set the stage for why what's wrong with the current model, what's wrong with the current financial system.
It's like the casino game where the people that are the house wins all the time. The people that are running the financial system, the people that are running the education system, which feeds people into their jobs, and then the healthcare system, which keeps people they have to have it at their jobs. The people that are running these big systems, and it's all based upon money, they're going to win no matter what, and they're not taking the risk. But the only way they can win is by to get you to compete. So everyone gets you to compete early for something that at the end of the day, you don't know what you're winning. So once you're competing to get into a special high school or a special program,
Sure.
if you're competing to get into the best college, and if you think about it, 3% of the people that apply to Harvard get in. So once you're there, okay, was that the golden ticket? Well, yeah, my friends that went there said, yeah, it's harder to get in than it actually is to be there, right? So the whole system is designed for a few people to win, which is like Silicon Valley, and a lot of people to effectively lose, right? And even the people that are winning and think they're winning, they're the ones we're talking to right now. You thought you've won, you thought you got a good job, but you're unhappy.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is so many people I meet, like
Right.
all different ages.
Because you're playing the game for somebody else.
Yeah.
You're the player in the casino. You're not running your own system. You're not running your own game. It's broken because, again, only a few people win, because the carrot is the retirement and the stick is your job. And getting a job, and the best job, and making money, that's supposedly going to make you happy.
Right. But it once you get there, you're like, there's an emptiness. Like, it doesn't.
Right. Everybody makes money that is at the head of the game. The people that are playing the game, people like us that played it, that's the worst thing for us, because we're unhappy and we're just making it better for everybody else, not us.
Right. That sucks.
Right. Because if you look at like a salary and you divide it by the number of hours you're actually really working, and you take taxes out of it, it's awful. It's like you're a prisoner, but you're actually putting yourself into prison, and you think it's really great. And then at night you get to go home on work release, but you don't have very little time to do anything.
Right.
But the idea is, oh my God, when you get to be 60, 65,
Run.
then if you make $1 million or $2 million or blah, 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 are you kidding me? What are you going to do? Okay, you're going to live in Florida and like play golf? Did you live your passion? You look back and you said, okay, the only thing you had is, became a partner in a firm, or I got this, or I got that. Really? That's what excites you? Did you change things? Did you make it better for people? Did you actually live your passion?
Yeah.
Whatever your dream was and your passion, did you give that up? For what? To live a couple of years comfortably? You could have been doing that all along.
Right.
You don't really need that much money to actually live comfortably and happy anywhere in the world. It's not that much. So this is really the thing that we need to help break, which is the notion of you working for other people instead of yourself. I got to work for the CEO. I got to work for somebody. No, you don't. You're the CEO of your life. Yeah. You're the person in charge of it. You're in charge of your dreams. You were given this amazing life to create something. It doesn't have to be big. It can be small. It doesn't matter what it is. But there's no reason why you should have to give up your freedom to go work into a job unless you love it, unless you like structure.
Right.
There's some people love structure.
Only you know what's in alignment. Like, if you're not living in alignment with your passion, what fulfills you.
You should be working for your dream. And then eventually your dream's going to work for you. Right?
That sounds awesome.
That's what you talked about the dream spectrum. Like we're going to help people figure out how to get out from where they're doing right now, still make decent money. And then when you pursue your passion, your dream, the big money will kick in later, and your dreams will finance you instead of you financing your dreams. But when you realize your dream, boom, and you hit it big and you have like $1 billion brand, or you like, that's the target for you. That's the moonshot. The moonshot's doing something impossible. JFK termed it because we hadn't gone into space. And he was like, in 10 years, we're going to be on the moon. That's insane. And he did it. It's insane to think about that. And so if you don't think your dreams are insane, or if you don't think your dreams are impossible, or if you don't think that way, then you're never going to do it, because you're only going to look at what's possible. Right. For 30 years, I've got to work with some of the best and brightest people in the world. And my gift was to help them translate their amazing moonshot ideas into something that was a financial language that an investor would want to invest in. So it's kind of a conduit between the people that were creating the really cool things, and the smarter and the bigger it was, the harder it was to do that. And I was really good at that. I was always good at the really hard, really big, really complicated things. as a gift that I got from for who I am.
Yeah.
Like I was born that way.
And you love it.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Right. And I get to see so many different new companies and ideas and things. It just keeps you going. It's like I've had 1,000 jobs that were never jobs.
Yeah.
But it's also stressful because it's like each one of those, the people, it's hard to win. And so they lose. And so there's lots of failure. But as I told you before, the more failure there is, the more actual growth there is. So people that are willing to take risks and continue to take risks and continue to go. I've seen people have 4 and 5 at different startups over the years. And they may never hit it big, but man, their life is interesting.
Yeah. And I really like that notion. Like, it's very comforting to me, at least at this point in my life, to hear that the more you fail, the closer you are to getting it right.
Yeah.
And if you fail more, the more you
faster.
fail, if you fail faster, then you get there faster, right?
Right.
I think that's really comforting for me, but also I think a lot of our listeners and viewers, because I think there's a lot of self-doubt associated with, like, either you're in the wrong career path, or you're in a job you hate, or you've bounced around, like you've been in 5 jobs you hate. Like, you keep going from job to job thinking it's going to be better, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's a little bit better, but like, I guess my message to anybody listening or watching is to not stress or worry about that. Actually, be grateful. Be grateful for all of those, what we call them, fails, because, hey, you're tapping into what makes you happy and what you like. And if you didn't notice, if it didn't feel as much of a failure, then you wouldn't have known to get out of it and move on to the next thing. But what we're talking about is, instead of just jumping in a parallel, instead of just laterally jumping from job to job that you think is the answer, but you know isn't really what you want to do, but you're like, well, maybe the coworkers will be better, maybe my boss will be better. Like, that's not the answer. You're keeping yourself on that hamster wheel.
Right.
We're talking about taking the leap up, like changing that trajectory from just, staying flat, and changing the trajectory so you can begin to start that process of fulfilling your passion, like going on that path.
Most people can do their jobs in 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you have to stay there for 8.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're in meetings because other people want meetings, and they're in meetings. When Steve Jobs refused to have meetings, he actually refused to have people put PowerPoint presentations. He just wanted to walk and touch the product because he's a product guy.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine that. Like, he refused to be in meetings longer than his ADHD or, ADD. And he was like, they figured out that he just wanted to touch the products. And he was like, I like that. I don't like that. He didn't want to be presented to in these meetings. These meetings are worthless. 80% of this stuff is just like ridiculous. It's nonsensical.
Yeah.
Right. If it doesn't help the customer, it doesn't help the product, it doesn't help the customer and the product, what are you doing?
It's just filling hours.
Yeah. It's like what we talked about is the Henry Ford thing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that at another time probably, or if you want to talk about it now, it's cool.
Let's jump into it, because I feel like that's a big subject, is the idea of capitalism and like the 9 to 5, this 40-hour work week. It just seems arbitrary, and like, it seems like capitalism is like this evil thing that forces us into these like awful 40-hour work weeks, like 9 to 5s, where it's just, we waste our days, like, wasting time going to the water cooler,
Right.
meetings, things that just, this could have been an email. And it's like, my generation, Gen Z, we're kind of fed up. It's kind of programmed for like a small amount of people to win, and a lot of people are losing in order to make this system work.
Right.
But that seems opposite of what we were taught in school about capitalism and free market, like everybody can win, everybody can, make it to the top. But I mean, I know that in my life, I know that hasn't been true. It hasn't seemed true. And then my generation as a whole, Gen Z, like, everybody feels like capitalism is this big evil thing, like, that is just put together to make a small amount of people win, like, it seems like a lie from what we were taught about capitalism.
Right. The system is the problem. The game that they've structured and set up. The game is not capitalism. That's the problem. People think that the game they're playing is a capitalistic game.
Mm-hmm. It's not?
It's not. No. It's actually the exact opposite of capitalism.
Oh.
Capitalism, if you just look it up in the dictionary, is where you as a person, if you have a business, you get to own that business. Communism is where the state owns the business. One entity, a global entity, owns what you're doing. Capitalism is you get to own what you're doing. But over time, with the industrial age and the organized labor and all this stuff, we've been led to believe that we need to get a job and it's okay for somebody else to own the business. And we're really not owners anymore. And we're led to believe we're a little bit owners, but we're not.
I see.
Right. So the trick is the house, the people that own a company, a big company, which is, again, when it's a public company, it's really owned by like a bunch of millions of little people, but the middleman that we put in there to manage it, the financial systems, the hedge funds, they win from all the work. And the only way it keeps going and the stock market goes up is more people play, more people put 401k, more teachers work, more people are working, and that kind of money drives the system. And so the only way that you can win is if you own the game. So who are the owners of the game? The owners of the game are the middlemen, the financial systems, the accountants, the lawyers, the bankers, the people that have the rules, that are in charge of all this, the people that run the school systems. The school systems create people that get jobs, and they tell you you're going to get a job if you get to the best school. And then we were forced to compete with each other to see who has the most. Well, the people that want the best schools have the most opportunities, and the ones who live in the best neighborhoods, they have an advantage. And people talk about that right now, and that's true. But still, you're not going to be happy if you're playing the game, even if you're one of the best players in the game. So they get us to compete against each other, and until you drop out of the game completely and play your own game, which is your dream, and it said you have to have a job or you're going to you're going to be a loser. You're not going to have a house. You're not going to be able to support your kids. You're not going to be able to do this or that. That's not true.
Retirement.
Retirement's the carrot.
Yeah.
The job's to stick. And if I can keep you doing that and keep everybody doing that, all the people that sit at the top, the people that are the house, like a casino, they're the house, they win. If everyone drops out, they lose. And you don't need those people. Those people aren't the ones that helped you. They just structured it to support them. And through fear and greed, right? Greed is you need a bigger house. Greed is you need a better looking wife or a better spouse or better this or better that. Yeah. And that's not going to make you happy at all, right? The people that win are the ones that create their own game, which is entrepreneurship, which is what we're talking about. So like what we were saying before is that the people that created the game created it for their advantage. Again, that's not capitalism. And profit is all about driving people in that game to produce more so that the people at the top can do less. It's really the house, right? And what we want to get to is where everybody gets to be their own house. Everybody gets to run their own game. Everybody gets to work together for their own dreams so that they can have freedom, abundance, and passion. The people at the top have a lot of freedom, a lot of abundance, probably not a lot of passion. That's probably what they're short on, right? But they have a lot of power, so that maybe that's their passion, right? If you think about the people that have dropped out or created their own game, that's the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates. I mean, imagine dropping out of Harvard to create your own thing. So they're living a life of freedom, abundance, and passion because they picked their passion first. They went after their dream first. Yeah. People like Oprah and Ellen, right? And Madonna, pioneers, right? They're living their best life because they started with their passion. They risked it all to start their own businesses, all of them.
Yeah.
They risked it. None of them had a ton of money. None of them came from anything. They risked it. Maybe they had a few jobs, but they dropped out to create their own game, and now they're masters of their own destiny. Anyone can do that. The thing is, the binary part of this is to say that you have to choose.
Right, because I was going to say, it's like, when you say like they risked it all and all of this, it feels like that's the only way to get there, that like you gotta blow up your life, that you can't have it all, that you can either have like the wonderful work-life balance and a peaceful life, you know, where you're happy, or this career path, you know, where you're like, there's no time for anything else. Like it very much feels like there's not a way to have both. Like binary, it's like either this or this, right?
But the real risk that when you say blow it up, right?
Yeah.
I don't think like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates dropped out of college. Mm-hmm. Steve Jobs never went to college, although he audited college, so he kind of got it for free. He was really smart. He was the smartest one of anybody, right? He went to college for free.
Yeah.
He just went to classes and learned what he wanted to learn.
Super smart.
Right? And part of that he actually put into the thing you have right now on the computers where you have the different italics, right? Like the different fonts.
Uh-huh.
He just learned that in a font class.
Oh.
And he was the first one, like before it was like 2 or 3 fonts. And he put that in because he thought that was cool.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Oh.
Like he's the one who put it all in to the system that wasn't in like the big mainframes. They didn't have different fonts and things like that. He just audited a class, thought it was cool. It's in his book. It's really cool.
Oh, I had no idea.
No, like all this stuff is like what they thought was cool.
Yeah. Right? So he was really like, and I guess this falls right in line with our podcast, like the title of the podcast, MoonShooting.
Right.
That is a moonshot idea. Like the idea of it, because it took me a while to understand when, you know, since we first met to now, like what you meant by like, you kept saying like for a moonshot dream to be a moonshot dream, it has to first be impossible.
You know, it's one of my venture capital paradoxes.
Yeah.
It's just the third. I have 3 of them, but the third one is if you don't say your thing is impossible or you don't think about it being impossible, it will never be big.
Right.
Because you'll think about it as being possible, and nothing that is big was ever possible.
Or like a game changer, like something right. that changes the game, right? Like his idea of changing those fonts, that, you know, that wasn't even existing. It was a fully original, like it came from a new, cool. Right. Brand new, like it right. wasn't in a line with the current systems. It was something new, something, right. you know, what one right. would say, that's impossible. Like, why would we need it? Someone probably told him, why would we need
all
silly fonts? Like, people aren't right. going to want that. People don't like choices.
Right. That's
Make
insane.
it simple.
Right. Yeah.
But he was like, he thought of an impossible right. thing, right. and right. he changed the game.
Right. Well, what iPhone? We already have phones. Why do I need an iPhone?
Exactly.
Well, the iPhone was a computer that you could walk around with. Change the game.
Totally.
Right. And if you talk about like Oprah and Ella and all, the risk that people take, so you think people think it's a financial risk.
Yes.
It's not a financial risk. There is a way to bridge that financial risk, and we're going to talk about it. People stop themselves from living their dreams because they think they just have to get really poor really fast.
Yeah, like the starving artist,
yeah.
the living off ramen, like, oh, if I got to follow my dream, like if I want to be this, then I got to, you know, I got to suffer. And there's this idea of suffering, like it's and it might be an American thing, like hustle culture, like yeah. There's got to be pain to achieve.
The people that run the game right now want you to think that. Mm-hmm. They want you to think that like that if you have your passion, that you're a starving artist.
Yeah.
That's nonsense. The people that you said are like artists, Madonnas and all them, and even Bill Gates, all those guys were like creators. They all have one thing in common. They were creators. They created something, then they owned it. So they were free. But the big risk isn't the financial risk, and we're going to talk about how you finance your dream if you have a job right now. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that later. The big risk is that your idea is stupid, or it sucks, or that you're no good. Mm-hmm. And all the people that made it in Hollywood or make it anywhere fail over and over again until they get it right. Some people didn't fail. Right away they get a lot of success. Maybe that's not good for them. We're not saying you should fail 2, 3, or 4 or 5 times. Not saying that. But you have a dream to be something, right? And like, for example, we're in Hollywood right now. So if you just want to be like Brad Pitt because you think it's cool to be rich, well, no, people like him or people like anyone in that industry they also go through that same phase where as an actor and being dependent upon producers, writers, and directors, they're dependent. So there is some level of lack of freedom for that. They're out of balance. They have maybe some money and some passion, but they lack freedom. So they have to keep going over and over again to audition over and over.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's crazy, right? But if you own your own production company or you have a deal, so now you're your own owner or you're head of your own studio like Steven Spielberg, he went from being a director, right, to a producer to owning his own studio. Yeah. And at the end, that's his ultimate dream. That's the goal. That's the most freedom, a passion, and abundance that he could possibly have.
And he led with that. Like, all these people, like, they led with my passion. They led with, I want to do that thing I'm passionate about. They weren't, their like moonshot wasn't I want to be rich. It was, I want to be an actor, like, or I want to be, acting
these great things.
Yeah, or I want to sing Madonna, right? Or Ellen, I want to make people laugh. Like,
but if you're a singer and the record company's telling you what to do, or if you're a director and they're telling you what to do, then you don't have the freedom you really want.
Right.
You're living your passion, but not fully. You're only living your passion fully or having your abundance fully if you have enough money or enough abundance and enough freedom to to do the dreams the way you want to do them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to sacrifice that a little bit. Maybe you can't live your dream fully right away. There's steps to get it. But if you keep your eye on the prize, like the whole thing about the moonshot was Kennedy knew that he had 3 phases to get to the moon. He wasn't going to go to the moon right away. He first had to get somebody into space. Then he had to get somebody into space and bring them back home. And then the third thing was getting to the moon, which very much parallels venture capital, and it very much parallels creation. You have to create something that you think is interesting. You got to get people interested in it. And then you have to make it successful enough so that you never have to ask anybody else, that you can do whatever you want to do. Right. Now, of course, you can do whatever you want to do now, but like there's a balance in that. So that's one of the things is, how do you achieve that balance? Yeah. And then how do you take the balance you achieve and build it so that it continues to grow? The system doesn't support that. That's why it's a binary system where it's one or the other, and that supports the people that are ahead of it, primarily the patriarchy, like we talked about. What we believe in is there's something different.
Yeah. A non-binary
financial system.
Yeah.
Right? And non-binary is you don't have to choose between the two, that you're the owner, that you're the creator, that you're creating abundance, and that you have freedom.
Yeah, and there's freedom in that. It's a spectrum. It's not one or the other. Right. It's not the patriarchy, it's not the matriarchy. It's like, it's something for everybody. Everybody can follow their passion, own their passion, have their passion finance them, instead of the other way around, like we say. Like, in a non-binary business system, there's room for everybody to win instead of just a small group of people at the top.
It's not, non-binary system isn't going to just benefit the people white males that went to Stanford, or the white people at the top. And it's not going to just benefit men. And it's not just going to benefit people that went to Harvard. It's going to benefit everyone equally. It shouldn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. It shouldn't matter whether you want passion or abundance. You should be able to have it all, right? And you should have it all as what you want, what you want to create.
Yeah. They're not risking it all. They're not, we're not saying that that's one of the purposes of our podcast in this season, especially, is that you can have all of that. You can follow your passion without having to give it all up.
Yeah.
Starving artists.
Yeah. Back in the day, like in Hollywood, you had to have 3 or 4 blockbusters for every studio. And in Silicon Valley, you have to have 2 or 3 unicorns or 4 or 5 unicorns. So it's all about the best winners.
Right.
No. And now in Hollywood, it's like there's all kinds of cool content because they changed the model. Yeah. Netflix kind of changed the model. Streaming changed the model. And now it's a much more equitable system. It's much more balanced between the creators and the investors, or the people that are in charge of it.
Yeah, it's getting there.
It's not perfect.
Yeah.
But it's a lot better than it was. Right?
Oh,
and
for sure.
The more we can create this system, which is we'll talk about later, the more that the system becomes more non-binary. That can happen in the tech world. That can happen in other parts of the world. That can happen for people that are creators across the board. Of course, my emphasis is in the technology side, because there's lots of creators out there. There's millions of people that have gotten funded, and there are very few opportunities to get the funding they really need to take it to the next level to get to the moon. There's a lot of people that have gotten out into space, and now they're stuck. They're just floating around the world.
Yeah.
They can't get to the moon because there's nothing. There's no way.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's like up there in space.
Just
It's like that one. What was that one movie with George Clooney where you just kind of float?
Oh yeah. I forget what that was called, but that was a good one.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Maybe Gravity?
Could be. Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that.
But anyway, I'm so glad you brought up the idea of people being stuck and kind of floating up there in space, because that's exactly where we're going with episode 2, is people that are stuck, which is so many of us, and starting the concepts of how to get unstuck. And we'll share some ideas, tips, tricks about all of that, and we'll get into it. So give us a like, follow, share, subscribe, or comment to come along this journey with us and experience all the freedom, abundance, and passion the world has to offer. So this has been Kristen Espinosa.
Mark Modica, OG Mod.
This is MoonShooting Mission Control, signing off.
Signing off.